Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a case that shouldn't exist. In the kind of town people dream about raising kids in, Haley Lambert lived in a modest neighborhood in Spokane. Washington porch lights glowing, quiet dogs barking, and a kind of stillness that pretends nothing bad ever happens. But you're going to learn otherwise. You'll walk in her shoes, see what she saw, feel the cold bite through her coat as she walks home for the last time. And if you're still awake by the time we reach the canyon, well, you probably won't survive this emotionally. Sorry, that's just how this one ends. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're up for it, post your city and local time. I love seeing where and when you're listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're Haley, and it's Saturday night. The radio in the back of Bellucci's diner plays a soft jazz instrumental, something moody but soothing, like a cigarette in a wet alley. The scent of tomato sauce, garlic, and scorched parmesan clings to your apron. You've just wiped down the last table and stacked the silverware. The clock reads 11:48. Now, too late for the bus, but not late enough to ask anyone for a ride. You tell your manager, Gary, that you'll walk home. He offers again, he always does, but you give that warm little smile and say, I like the night. It's quiet. Haley always said that. You tuck your notepad into your apron pocket and step out into the crisp air. January in Spokane doesn't play around. The sky is low and gray, not snowing yet, but heavy with the promise of it. You don't know it, but a group of criminologists still debate whether this exact decision was fate or chance. The having moment. They call it the last step in your regular life before it gets split in two. Before and after. Your boots make soft clicks on the sidewalk as you pass the shuttered bakery, the mailbox leaning slightly to one side, and the empty playground. You hum under your breath, maybe something like Moon River, though no one really knows. The streetlights flicker every third post. One of them hums like a dying fly. You think about your mom's chili waiting at home, about the baby blanket you saw at Goodwill earlier that day. You'd thought about buying it for your niece. You don't notice the car yet. It's parked across the street with the engine still ticking. Just another car, until it's not. Your neighbors always described you as gentle, quiet, sweet, a little delayed. Some whispered, but mostly in that protective way people talk about someone they love and don't quite understand. You didn't get sarcasm easily. You trusted too much. You forgave even more. Which is why you don't flinch when you hear the footsteps behind you. Statistically, most women in America never walk home after midnight. And when they do, they often clutch their keys like weapons or keep 911 halfway dialed in their pocket. Haley didn't do any of that. Maybe she should have, or maybe none of it would have mattered. Historians still argue whether early urban planning, the kind that made Spokane streets wide, dark, and empty, contributed to the vulnerability of nighttime pedestrians, especially women. Theories tie crime rates to lighting budgets, bus schedules, even tree placement. But those theories don't help Haley now. Halfway down Grove Street, a cat startles you. Just a streak of black fur darting from under a dumpster. You laugh softly and keep walking, and that's where we lose you. No screams, no running. Just a sound no one hears and a shadow that doesn't show up on any security footage. The only thing left behind, a faint drag mark near the edge of the sidewalk and your apron, still tied around your waist. Someone once said the cruelest thing about small towns is how quickly they forget the sound of your footsteps. And by morning, these streets are clean again. You wake up as Haley's mother, or maybe you don't really wake up. You just open your eyes and realize the house is too quiet. You know that feeling? That gut-level wrongness that sinks in before any fact does. That's what hits you first. The coffee pot's untouched. The bathroom door is open. Lights off. And Haley's bed, perfectly made. You stand in the hallway, still holding your robe shut at the neck, staring at the empty mattress like maybe she's just under the blanket, hiding as a joke. But your daughter isn't the kind of girl who plays those kinds of tricks. She's the kind who tapes up birthday cards a week early, who checks in even when she's just 10 minutes late. And she's not 10 minutes late. She's never come home. You call Bellucci's first, you expect Gary to say something like, "Oh, I dropped her off," or "She left with someone from work." But instead, there's a pause, Then his voice flattens. She said she was walking. I offered, like I always do, by 9:30 a.m. You're driving the neighborhood. You roll down the windows despite the cold, hoping maybe you'll hear her voice or spot her coat sky blue with those little buttons shaped like stars. Your breath fogs on the glass. You keep thinking maybe she stopped by the store, or maybe a friend's house. But with every turn, that hope shrinks. When you finally call the police, they don't act like it's urgent. Missing adults aren't an emergency, not right away. Anyway, you're told to wait a few more hours, maybe 24. Maybe she just needed space. And maybe the earth really is flat. People still argue that too. You make flyers, despite the frostbite on your fingers. You call relatives. You call strangers. You call old numbers she hasn't used since high school. The phone just keeps ringing, empty and polite. That night, the street outside your window looks quiet. But now you know the truth. Quiet is just a sound fear wears when it wants to sneak in. Elsewhere, you become Haley again. It's sometime before dawn. Your ears ring, your cheek stings, there's blood in your nose, but you don't feel it yet. There's a heavy blur where your thoughts should be. You try to sit up, but you're restrained or just too weak. You can't tell. Someone's talking, not yelling, not soothing either, just words, quiet and firm. Like instructions from someone who's done this before. They say your name once, then they stop using it altogether. You blink once, and then we're somewhere else. Snake River Canyon. A massive, gnarled fold of earth that looks like it was sliced open with a giant's knife. The sky above it is iron gray and low, with clouds hanging like a threat that hasn't made up its mind yet. You become Noah Jensen now, a 21-year-old undergrad with too many overdue assignments and a headache from too much caffeine. You've driven out to this place because your brain wouldn't shut up, because you thought nature might give you peace. It doesn't. It gives you mud, soggy trail shoes, and something else, something you spot just as you pass a pair of moss-covered boulders. It's a blanket, faded yellow, soaked through. You step closer, heart suddenly pounding in that terrible, stupid way it does when your instincts scream, but your curiosity wins. You nudge the edge of the blanket, and there she is. You don't scream, you don't fall, you just kneel there, because somehow your body decides that's safer than standing. Her skin is pale and cold, her lips are cracked. There's dried blood along her temple and purple bruising around her neck like the grip never let go. Next to her is a folded blue apron. It has her name tag still attached. Haley. You look away, trying not to throw up. And there, wedged in the dirt, is something even worse. The imprint of two boot soles, one large, one much smaller side by side. Like whoever left her here didn't walk away. He stood there for a while, watching her. Police arrive by afternoon. You give your statement, hands trembling in your lap. You say you were hiking, alone, just needed space. You say you found her by accident. They believe you, at least at first, because as calm as you sound, your clothes aren't that wet, and the rain. It had only just started again that morning. And most people don't go hiking in January, not with no backpack, no snacks, and no phone battery. A local paper later calls it the cleanest crime scene in county history. No fingerprints, no tire tracks, no broken branches, no DNA except hers. It's like she was placed there by a ghost. But ghosts don't fold aprons. Now you're sitting in an interrogation room. Fluorescent lights buzz above you like judgment. The walls are beige, hospital beige. That color no one picks on purpose. You're Noah Jensen again, hands flat on the metal table, answering questions you've already answered. Same words, different tone. Why Snake River? I've been there before. It's peaceful, in a storm. I don't mind the rain, and it's true. You don't? Not really. But that doesn't mean you were there by chance. It's hard to say what feels more suspicious, your vague story or the calm with which you tell it. The detectives don't accuse, not yet. They circle, they linger. One leans in close, voice soft like he's offering you coffee, not building a timeline. Did you touch the body? No. Did you move anything? I stepped back. I didn't know if she was... I didn't check for a pulse. You say that like it bothers you. But your eyes, they stay too dry, too blank. The report is filed. The fingerprints come back empty. And for now, you walk out. You're not the one they want, not yet. But you'll stay in their notes, underlined. circled, starred, elsewhere. Her parents are at the morgue. You're Haley's mom again now, because sometimes your brain needs to keep switching just to survive. They say you don't have to look, that there are dental records, that fingerprints were taken, that the apron alone is enough. But you need to see, you need it to be real so you can stop hoping. Stop imagining her calling from a payphone with a wild story and a bruise on her lip. The coroner pulls back the sheet, and everything in you dies all at once. Except your ability to scream. Haley's father doesn't scream. He walks out. He walks so far down the hallway they lose track of him for an hour. Some men drown in grief quietly. History calls them strong, but they're just mute with heartbreak. Later, the autopsy confirms it. Strangled, beaten, raped. A torn denim patch missing from the hip of her jeans, her ID wallet gone. But no scratches, no dirt under her nails, no fight, as if she never had a chance. The press takes the story and runs with it. Innocence lost. They call it the Spokane Angel. You hate that. She wasn't an angel. She was your daughter. She had a crooked tooth and a lazy eye in photos, and once cried for an hour because someone stepped on a snail. The police look again at Noah. They search his car, his dorm. They talk to his professors, but there's nothing. No photos, no history of violence, not even a parking ticket. He's a quiet kid. They say a little strange, but smart, keeps to himself, so they let him go, and the case begins to cool. But across the state, in a city called Walla Walla, yes, that's a real name, and yes, people still laugh about it. A woman sits at a bar, sipping from a cracked glass and pretending not to listen. You become her now, middle-aged, worn down, eyes red from too little sleep or too many secrets. You've been here for an hour, maybe two. The man next to you reeks of diesel and stale coffee. He's talking too loud, and she was just lying there. Man, like a rag doll. Nobody even looked. You don't mean to freeze, but you do, because he keeps talking. She had this apron, too. I kept it for a while, dunno why, and then he laughs. The wrong kind of laugh. Cold, proud. You memorize the name on his jacket, Hadley. Then you wait until you're outside, hands shaking as you drop the dime into the payphone and whisper to the operator, I need to report something. Something bad. The call makes it to Spokane County. Detectives track him down. James Hadley, 32, long-haul trucker, record of DUIs, domestic abuse, a face that never quite looks sorry. Even when he tries, they bring him in. He denies everything. Calm, polite, like a man being wrongly accused of stealing a sandwich, not murder. But then they find her, Linda McCready, and that changes everything. Because Linda, she's the one who called, and now she's pretending she didn't. You are Linda McCready now, and it's not easy being Linda, 58 years old, 2 decades older than your boyfriend, a smoker, a drinker. You say you don't trust people, but that's not quite true. You trust them long after you shouldn't. You believed James when he said you were different, special, that he'd changed. So when detectives come knocking, you answer the door with your hair tied back and your hands trembling. They're not shaking from fear, not at first, but from the effort of holding in what you know. Do you know what James Hadley? You nod. How well? You try to smile, but it doesn't land. They ask if you made the call, the anonymous tip, the one about the bar, about the girl, the blanket, the body. You say no 3 times, but something about the way they look at you like they already know the truth cracks you open a little. You sink into the couch. You hold your coffee cup like it's a grenade with the pin halfway pulled, and you talk. It comes out in shudders and stammers. You tell them James called you that night, January 13th, around 2 a.m. He sounded like a different person, not angry, panicked. He told you to meet him behind a truck stop in Pasco. You didn't ask why. When you got there, he was crouched between 2 rigs, head low, sweating through his shirt, and at his feet, wrapped in a thin yellow blanket, was the shape of a person. I didn't know who it was. You whisper, didn't want to know, but you helped him. You drove with him. That blanket in the back, 60 miles of silence. Snake River Canyon looming closer with every mile. And when you arrived, you both got out. He told you not to look. You obeyed. Still, you saw the apron. I don't know why I helped him. You admit. I was scared. I wanted to believe it was something else. You pause. But the truth is, you didn't want him to leave you. Even now, people debate your motives. Was it trauma bonding, codependency, a lifetime of being overlooked and suddenly feeling seen? Historians still argue whether psychological dependency can form as fast as a single night under pressure. Some call it fog of fear loyalty. Others say that's just a soft excuse for complicity. The detectives listen quietly. Then they ask, "Where's the blanket now?" You blink. "I don't know. He said he'd burn it." "What else did you see?" You shake your head. "That's it." But they're watching your eyes, and they see something flicker when they mention the missing wallet. You hadn't said anything about that. But then you do. "He had a wallet in his glove box," you say quietly. "Said it was from someone who wouldn't be needing it anymore." Their interest sharpens. Search warrants are issued within hours, and when police search James Hadley's truck, they find it an old, cracked leather wallet with a faded library card tucked inside. Haley's name in neat, green ink, and beside it, a torn piece of denim, its edges frayed. The thread still faintly pink where blood once dried. These items had never been made public, which means Linda couldn't have guessed them. But here's where it gets weirder. Because when they bring James in again, show him the evidence, lay the whole thing on the table like a twisted dinner spread. He doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, doesn't say a word, just stares. That unnerves even the lead detective. One of those old school guys with a stomach made of drywall and burnt coffee. James just smiles. And not the charming kind. Not even the smug kind. The kind you see on an empty person. One who doesn't care whether you believe him. One who doesn't need to win, just needs to make sure you lose. So now, detectives have a body, a motive, a witness, and physical evidence. The case should be closed. But then, the graffiti shows up, and everything collapses. You're at a rest stop in Helena, Montana, hands rinsed under a broken faucet, paper towels half soaked before you even reach them. The mirror above the sink is cracked, and the lights flicker like they're about to give up. You're not here for the bathroom. You're here for what is written inside the farthest stall. It's not big, not loud, just 5 lines scrawled in thick black marker like a message. Someone couldn't hold in any longer. January 13th, 1990. I killed Haley. They blamed someone else. I'm still out here. You freeze. You back away. You pull out your phone, then put it back again. Maybe it's a prank. Maybe it's just a sick joke. Some internet follower of true crime forums trying to stir panic. People do that. They've done worse. But the thing is, Haley's name was never released publicly with the exact date. The police used initials. Well, the year was buried in case files. And the smiley face. Well, that wasn't in the press either. You become the patrol officer on duty that night. You report it, take photos, log the scene, and then you call Spokane. They don't like the call. They like it even less 2 weeks later. When a second graffiti shows up, this time it's Boise, Idaho, another rest stop. Same marker, same stall location, different message. They locked up the wrong couple. I'm free. I'm not done now. Law enforcement doesn't know what to do because either a serial hoaxer is following the case from behind a curtain or something worse is true. The possibility that someone else killed Haley, that James and Linda were just convenient monsters, that maybe Linda told a story with real pieces but wrong origins. And here's the problem. Linda never saw the girl's face. She says that again and again. It was dark. She was covered. I only saw the apron. Could she have imagined the rest? Maybe, but how did she know about the wallet? The torn denim? The media gets wind of the graffiti. The public goes berserk. Local radio stations run special call-ins. TV hosts bring in retired profilers who use phrases like organized sadist and spatial patterning. Reddit threads light up. Everyone's suddenly an expert. Everyone's suddenly sure, but no one agrees. Historians of crime still debate whether public obsession with serial killers distorts justice or drives it. You could say the same thing about obsession in general. Too much heat can melt a lie, but it can also warp the truth. 3 months later, you're a journalist now, working in Portland. You open a padded envelope addressed to the newsroom. No return label, no postage date. Inside is a bundle of pages. 6 handwritten, Blue pen on ruled paper, every line neat, every I dotted with a tiny, almost dainty circle. You read the first line. Let's start with the truth. Haley wasn't my first. Your stomach drops. You keep reading. He, whoever he is, describes the night in Spokane in stomach-chilling detail. The last table she wiped down. The way she walked, alone. Gloves in her pocket, but not on her hands. The way she didn't scream, not once. You think it's a fake? But then he starts listing others. 5 women, 5 towns, 5 bodies. Redding, Corvallis, Yakima, Eugene, Missoula, each described with just enough specificity to make your pulse spike, each tied to a real, unsolved case. Some of them you didn't even know were cases. One line haunts you. I like the ones people forget. I don't need a pattern, I just need the quiet. And there it is again. That phrase, the quiet. The same words Haley once used to describe why she walked home at night. The signature. Just a smiley face, no name, no fingerprint, no DNA on the envelope. The paper was standard, the ink cheap. There's nothing to trace, except the terror. The paper turns it over to the police. The FBI gets involved, but nothing breaks. No suspects, no prints. The handwriting is unique but untraceable. A ghost's biography. And for the first time in years, the detectives working Haley's case look at James Hadley and think, maybe he was telling the truth. Because you can fake a witness. You can fake evidence, but it's really hard to fake a second killer. Or worse, a real one who was never even in the room. You're back in Spokane now. In the evidence room, a dusty place with too many locked drawers and too few answers. Cold cases live here, stacked and sealed like coffins without headstones. You slide open the drawer marked H.L. Lambert. Haley, inside, the apron, the original photos, the crime scene sketch, and the old, tattered wallet still sealed in a bag, still exactly as they found it. You hold it carefully. There's no ID inside, no money, no traceable fingerprints, just that faded library card. Haley Lambert, Evergreen Branch. You blink at it, because something catches the corner of your eye, not in the bag but on it. A number, scribbled in pencil, almost rubbed out by time. 234117. You double-check the case files. That number doesn't match any logging format. Not SPD, not FBI, not even the coroner's chain of custody. So where did it come from? Later, a board intern makes a guess. It looks like an internal cataloging number from the Walla Walla Public Works Department used for graffiti and public damage reporting. Wait, what? The wallet was tagged. Like graffiti. You start to wonder if someone planted it. Historians still argue whether early forensic systems lack the procedural rigor to spot staged evidence. Most agree. In the 1990s, you could still game the system if you knew the right corners to cut, and if you were bold enough to leave half-truths behind. You're now in James Hadley's shoes again. Sort of. You're inside his old truck, parked at an impound lot just outside Spokane. The air inside is thick with the stink of mold and cigarettes. You run your fingers across the dashboard, the steering wheel, the cracked vinyl of the seat, and there's nothing else. No trophies, no maps, no camera, no burner phone, no hint that this man was the kind of person who planned anything. It all feels reactive, clumsy, desperate, which doesn't match the letters, or the graffiti, or the handwriting so meticulous it almost looked calligraphic. But Linda saw the body. She gave the location. She mentioned the wallet. How could she have known? You try to believe she made it up patched together from news clips, offhand questions from detectives, maybe even things James mumbled while half drunk. Memory is fragile. Trauma can invent whole scenes. The science of false confession is thick with cases where stress created truth out of vapor. Still, no one can explain the denim, that 1-inch strip, torn at the seam, matched exactly to Haley's jeans. No public mention, no visible tear in the crime scene photo. Only the coroner saw it during the post-mortem. So if Linda lied, she did it perfectly. But now, the story starts to shift, because 2 more letters arrive. One goes to a local newspaper in Eugene, Oregon. Another ends up at a university in Missoula, Montana. Different handwriting this time, sloppier, but same signature, smiley face, same details, victims, towns, dates, too much overlap to ignore. You try to believe it's the same person. just older, more reckless, until you compare postmarks. They were mailed on the same day over 600 miles apart. Unless the killer had a plane ticket and 2 fake identities, someone else is now writing these letters. Someone else is claiming the name. You're in the profiler's chair now, and the board in front of you is chaos. Threads crisscrossing the Northwest. 6 states, 9 letters, 2 handwriting styles, no prints. And every message ending with that damn grin. It's not funny, not even close. But the face keeps showing up, etched into trees along Highway 12, painted beneath bridges, etched into picnic tables. Always the same style, always that cheap black marker, always near places where young women have gone missing. You flip through a folder labeled Smiley Face Communications. Inside, timeline, geography, language analysis. One analyst believes the original letters are authentic, but the newer ones are copycat chaos, a phenomenon seen before. Like during the Zodiac hysteria, people latch on, they mimic, they invent, and the signal drowns in the noise. But then someone finds something weird, a graffiti tag buried beneath layers of whitewash at a rest stop in Corvallis. It's dated 1989. She wasn't the first, she won't be the last. That's a year before Haley died, and that changes everything. Because either this killer was active longer than anyone knew, or someone else had already adopted the persona before the first murder was even confirmed. Or worse, maybe the smiley face isn't a person. Maybe it's a blueprint. You're sitting in a war room now, not a literal one. This is just what detectives call it when the walls are covered in timelines, maps, names, fibers, photos, threads, and entire life and death reduced to pushpins and red ink. You're in Spokane PD's cold case archive. Lights dimmed to keep the paper from yellowing faster. You stare at the wall, specifically the photo of Haley's apron, folded so neatly it looks ceremonial, like it was placed, not dropped. Almost like an offering. You remember what the forensic psychologist said during the first round of press. This offender doesn't want to hide what he did. He wants it seen, but only just enough to feel clever. That's the word they keep circling. Clever, not brutal, not random, not emotional, clever. And that's what makes the next moment so satisfying and so confusing. Because when detectives recatalog the items from James Hadley's impounded truck for a fresh forensic scan, something shows up. Not DNA, not blood, ink. Black ink on the inside of the glove box, barely visible without UV light, but once exposed, it reveals a phrase. Some girls are too quiet to scream. Underneath, the same smiley face. The forensics team gets excited. They think it's a confession. Finally, something damning. They pull Hadley back in for questioning. But there's a problem. The ink is on top of the original glove box lining. And that lining, it was replaced 2 months after the truck was impounded. It wasn't there the night Haley died, so now you've got someone adding evidence. Someone who knew exactly where her wallet had been found and wanted to link James to the letters, to the graffiti, to everything. But they got the timing wrong. Which begs the question, who's playing both sides? Historians and crime experts debate whether the smiley face represents a singular killer or an open-source mythos one sick people tap into like a club without a door. Some cite the Zodiac as precedent. Others suggest the persona has been franchised like a horror movie villain, replicated with Whatever the case, it seems someone wants James and Linda back in the spotlight, but now there's a twist. Linda's been in prison 5 years, and a judge finally agrees to hear her appeal. You're in the courtroom with her now. Her face is thinner, her hands softer from indoor labor. She walks differently, like a woman whose guilt may no longer be guilt, but shame soaked into her bones. The prosecutor brings up her original confession. She admitted to helping dispose of the body. He says, her lawyer counters. She was manipulated. She was desperate. She believed she was protecting herself from something worse. You watch her face. She doesn't deny it, but she doesn't defend herself either. Instead, she says quietly, I helped move the body because I thought I had to, but I didn't know her name. I didn't know about the wallet. Not until they asked me. The courtroom stills, and then the bomb drops. Her lawyer presents a new phone log, a record of a call made from an anonymous burner phone to the Walla Walla Police Department tip line in late January 1990. The caller gave exact coordinates near the Snake River. The call came from Spokane, from a gas station on the same night Linda claimed she was in Pasco. The caller, male voice, calm, monotone, call ID unrecoverable, burner phone, discarded. But here's what stuns everyone. Linda never mentioned those coordinates. Not in her confession, not in questioning, not in court. Only the tipster and the killer knew those numbers. And the timing of the call? It came 3 hours before Linda and James allegedly dumped the body. The timeline no longer fits, not unless James somehow went back in time. You're sitting in the judge's chair now, metaphorically, trying to make sense of a case where every answer spawns 2 more questions. And you realize either James Hadley was not the killer, or he wasn't alone. The judge orders their release. Full exoneration. It makes national news. Not because people think they're innocent, most don't, but because the system failed them. Because the real killer might still be laughing, and now the public wants a new name for this shadow. Someone suggests the smiley face killer. The media runs with it. Overnight, the smiley becomes legend. Graffiti spreads. Copycats bloom. Urban legends explode like wildfire. Suddenly, every cold case near a river has a smiley scratched into the story. And still, no one knows who first made the mark. You're standing in front of a mirror now, not yours, a stranger's. The kind you find inside a roadside motel with flickering lights and wallpaper that curls at the corners. The mirror is cracked, fogged at the edges, and there's a phrase scratched faintly into the glass. Nobody notices the quiet ones. Underneath it, barely visible until you tilt your head, is a smiley face. You breathe out and the glass fogs again, erasing it. But you saw it. You know it was there. You're in Helena, again. Only now it's 1996, a full year after James and Linda were released. The case should be ice cold. But it's not, because the smiley keeps showing up, not just in graffiti anymore, but in timing, in placement, in what people say when they think no one's listening. A waitress in Eugene hears a man mutter she folded the apron herself and walks away without realizing what she heard. A librarian in Yakima finds a sticky note in a returned book. Some girls don't scream, even when they should. A kid in Reading sees the symbol carved into the side of a water tower and tells no one because he thought it was funny. And still, you're back at the canyon. You can't stay away. You become Haley's father this time. You've made this drive before, but today the air feels different, heavier, like the clouds are watching. You park at the same overlook where her body was found and just sit, staring. In the distance, you hear birds. A hawk cries overhead. Then you notice it. Someone's placed a single flower between the same 2 boulders. Fresh, purple, carefully tucked. No one saw who left it, but it wasn't you. You don't pick it up. You don't move. You just watch the stem bend in the wind. That night, a new message appears at a rest stop near Missoula. I watch them watch each other. I'm still here, still learning. Police file the photo, tag the location, but they don't tell the press this time. Too many hoaxes, too much panic, and too little to go on. But you start to wonder if the smiley face isn't just a symbol but a ritual. Historians argue whether ancient symbols evolved from necessity or myth. That is, did people carve signs into trees and stone to communicate or to ward off the unknowable? To document or to confess? The smiley face becomes both. Soon, it starts appearing in places without crimes. A park bench in Portland, a high school desk in Bakersfield, a mailbox in Twin Falls, always the same size, the same ink stroke, the same maddening little smirk. You're an analyst now, tasked with mapping these sightings, trying to find a pattern in the chaos. You don't find one. There's no central region, no favorite state. The only thing consistent, silence. The killer doesn't want to be caught. He wants to be remembered, and he wants to blur the line between myth and method. You close the file and push it away, but it doesn't stay away, because a month later, the graffiti comes back to Spokane, inside a bathroom stall at the exact truck stop where James and Linda were arrested. Same stall, same ink, different tone. You thought it was them. You still think so. That's the best part. And for the first time, a quiet panic runs through the department because it means someone watched. Someone followed the case. Someone knew the moment, the place, the angle of the headlines. And that means the killer isn't just out there. He's watching them, watching him. You take a walk that night. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just your thoughts getting away from you. But you glance behind you 3 times on the way home. You never used to do that. You didn't used to walk faster under the streetlight. You didn't used to avoid looking in the mirror after dark. But now you do, and somewhere, someone is smiling. You're in the mailroom of the Oregonian newspaper. It's a slow Tuesday morning in May of 1994. Sunlight leaks through dusty windows. You're sipping cold coffee from a styrofoam cup when you notice a plain manila envelope. No return address, just the words "Atan." Crime desk printed in shaky block letters. You almost toss it in the bin, but something about the weight of it feels wrong. You open it. 6 pages, all handwritten, neatly, blue ink, no smudges, and at the bottom of every page, a tiny smiley face. You read the first line. Haley was just one of them, one of many. You freeze. You're the crime editor now called in halfway through your second muffin. The letter is already splayed across your desk. You read slowly, then again, then a third time because the details are too accurate. Things that were never released. The chipped nail polish on Haley's left pinky, the dent in her work shoe, the small rip in the seam of her apron, left side, from where the stitching had begun to fray. No press photos showed any of that. You keep reading. The author lists 5 other women. February 1988. Cassie J. Redding. October 1989. Elena B. Corvallis. April 1990. Trina L. Yakima. July 1991. May. Somewhere near Eugene. December 1992. The one with the song in her hair. That last phrase makes no sense. You wonder if it's code, a nickname, or just part of the sickness. Every victim is described with a mixture of eerie tenderness and distance, like someone writing a letter to their favorite museum exhibit. And one sentence stands out, etched deep into your brain. I don't hate them. I choose them. I remember them. I make them still. You think it's poetry until you remember that still can also mean motionless. You send it to the FBI. They go silent for weeks. When they respond, it's behind closed doors, with phrases like open investigations and multi-jurisdictional effort. You ask if it's real, they don't say no. Now you're a profiler again, flipping through Haley's original file. The police had always assumed hers was a one-off tragic, yes, but isolated. This letter shatters that illusion, because if it's real and it feels real, then the killer has a history, a method, a voice, but not a name. And that might be the most terrifying part. You've seen serial killers before. They escalate. They leave clues, threats, messages, ego crimes, seeking attention. But this is the opposite. He kills, then disappears. He writes only when he's sure you're forgetting. And just when you start to relax, he reminds you that he's still watching. And he doesn't care if you catch him. He cares if you remember him. That's why the letters are signed not with a name, but a symbol, a face you can't interrogate, a signature no one owns. You start combing through the 5 names listed. Only 3 have open cases. 2 are Jane Does, 1 body never found. But in each report, there's something small, some minor detail that links them to Haley's crime. A piece of denim, a flower tucked behind the ear, a missing personal item never recovered. It's subtle, hidden, like someone trying to thread a needle through different police departments without ever piercing the fabric too deeply. The press doesn't know yet, but whispers begin. You hear it on late-night AM radio shows first, then in fringe newsletters, then, slowly, in mainstream papers. They call him the smiley face killer. Some say he's a trucker, others say a drifter. One theory even suggests a pair of siblings twins, working state to state, leaving notes for each other. Historians will later call this the speculation surge, a period in the mid-90s where more theories were invented than facts uncovered. You watch as law enforcement fractures under the pressure. Some deny the connection, others lean into it. One sheriff in Northern California writes a whole op-ed insisting it's all media-driven fiction until another letter shows up. This time, it's delivered by hand, left at the front door of a rural newspaper in Shasta County. No envelope, no address, just a single page, folded 4 times, written in the same careful script. Don't try to find me. I'm not lost. You are. Then, at the bottom, the same symbol, drawn sharper. This time, you're no longer afraid. You're furious, because this isn't just a killer anymore. This is a performance, and you're in the audience. You're in a dark office now. A single reading lamp glows over a cluttered desk. The walls are lined with file boxes, their edges worn, their tabs labeled with fading ink. You sit in the middle of it all, surrounded by ghosts with first names and incomplete stories. Tonight, you're trying something new. You've compiled the names of 5 women besides Haley mentioned in the smiley letter. You've got newspaper clippings, coroner's reports, and radio transcripts spread across the table. You're looking for what no one's seen, a thread, a pattern, something or someone. The first one, Cassie J. Redding, 1988, 19 years old, worked evenings at a laundromat, went missing walking home, found 4 days later near Whiskeytown Lake. Cause of death, strangulation. No signs of struggle, no known suspects. A scrap of fabric tied to a tree branch 15 feet from her body. You make a note, fabric. Next, Elena B. Corvallis, October 1989. 22, college student, last seen leaving her off-campus job at a movie theater, found a week later in a field near Route 20, body posed, arms crossed, fingernails painted, a daisy tucked into her sleeve. You underline, posed, flower, ritual. Then Trina L. Yakima, April 1990. 26, manager at a diner, missing during a night shift change, never made it home. Found near a rest stop. Evidence showed she was moved post-mortem. No personal effects. No media coverage beyond a short paragraph on page 6. You circle, rest stop, silence. Then May, somewhere near Eugene. Not much is known. No body officially found. But local lore talks about a woman who vanished from a gas station near Route 58. Her car was found, keys in the ignition, nothing stolen, a napkin with the words she said thank you written in pen, no fingerprints, and the last name. He never gave it, only described her as the one with the song in her hair. You pause on that. What does that even mean? You pull up old cold case listings for December 1992. Search Northern California, Oregon, Southern Washington. You find a case Jane Doe, discovered in a drainage ditch outside of Roseburg. Estimated age, 25 to 30. Red hair, ears pierced. Autopsy noted that her scalp had remnants of glitter or sequins, possibly from a costume or hair accessory. It hits you. Song in her hair. You jot it down. And you realize something all of them had in common. Not just the smiley face, not just the quiet disappearances, but something else. They were all unnoticed in life, marginalized, working nights, low-income jobs, few friends, sometimes labeled slow, odd, or too trusting. Women who moved through the world like whispers. Haley was like that too, and that's what haunts you, because whoever this is, he's choosing women who fit a mold. Not of appearance, not of place, but of presence or lack of it. He's targeting women no one sees. Criminologists call this victimology by invisibility, a strategic approach that exploits social neglect. And it works, because it took a letter, not a murder, for people to start paying attention. You stare at the map in front of you. Pins scattered like broken constellations, a crescent across the Pacific Northwest. The killer isn't random. He's careful. He lets years go by between each, and when he does speak, it's through symbols, graffiti, napkin notes, scratched mirrors, folded letters. Always clever, always cold. You close your eyes and remember what he wrote. I make them still. The ritual isn't about the kill. It's about the pause, the folding of the apron, the daisy in the sleeve, the silence after. Each woman turned into a monument no one visits. Historians still argue whether some serial killers are driven more by control than compulsion, whether their greatest high is not the act, but the aftermath, the silence, the coverage, the theories. If that's the case, the smiley face killer is a curator, not just a predator. And you've walked through his museum. You shut the light, but the faces follow you home. You're in a courtroom now. The lights are too bright, the air too still. It's July of '95, and after 5 long years behind bars, James Hadley and Linda McCready are walking free. You sit in the back, in one of those narrow wooden pews that creak if you even think about shifting. Reporters fill the first 2 rows. Microphones are waiting just outside the courthouse doors. A couple of sketch artists flip their pads back and forth, trying to decide whether to draw Linda's hands or James's eyes. You just watch, because you're not sure how to feel. On one hand, they were never convicted, only held, detained, charged, then uncharged. 5 years passed, but no trial, only headlines, hints, the weight of an accusation that somehow never fully closed. But on the other hand, Linda confessed. She gave details, names, places, the blanket, the body. You want to believe she was manipulated? That trauma and desperation blurred her memory. That she believed something that wasn't quite true. And maybe she did, or maybe she didn't. The judge reads the exoneration aloud, language soft and bureaucratic, like they're dismissing a parking ticket instead of letting 2 lives collapse into public silence. You study James Hadley. His face is unreadable. Clean-shaven now, hair slicked back. His jaw clenches only once when Linda touches his arm on the way out, and he pulls it away. People still argue whether that was guilt or rage. Outside, the press swarm them. James says nothing, just gets in the back of a rented sedan and disappears down a long road lined with protesters on one side and conspiracy theorists on the other. Linda lingers. Someone shouts a question. Did you lie to the police? Linda. She pauses, looks up at the sky like the answer might be written there, then says, I believed what I saw. I just don't know if it was real anymore. The crowd gasps, but she doesn't explain. She doesn't need to, because the real story isn't about Linda or James. Not anymore. It's about what happens after. You're Haley's mother now, and you're standing outside that same courtroom, watching the people who were supposed to face justice simply walk away. You're not angry. You're hollow, because you don't know what to believe anymore. You believed them guilty, then maybe not. You believed the police had the answers, then they didn't. You believed the media's timelines until they were disproven. And now, you're left with nothing except a box of evidence that proves less than you thought. Haley's old wallet, her blue apron, a denim patch that no longer feels like a clue, just fabric. You whisper her name under your breath, not because you think she can hear you, but because you're afraid no one else remembers how to say it right. The newspapers run 100 versions of the same headline, couple freed in Lambert case. Some add, amid smiley face killer panic. Others go more tabloid. Did police catch the wrong killer? Smile. You're free now. A signature of evil. You hate them all. Because every headline puts Haley in the past tense, in parentheses, as if she's a side note in her own story. And somewhere in Portland, Eugene, Missoula, or maybe nowhere at all, a man watches the coverage and smiles, not because they let someone else go free, but because they made it about everyone else. Because he's not in the picture, he's in the silence. Historians later point out that in 1995, the FBI was simultaneously tracking 3 serial offenders with similar MOs across the Pacific Northwest. Some believe the smiley face was a composite legend created when the lines between separate cases blurred into one chilling myth. But others say that's exactly what the killer wanted. To become an idea, to become untraceable, to become contagious, a template that other monsters could follow. And that's why the next part matters. Because just when people start to forget, the letters return. You're in a newsroom again. This time it's local Spokane. Smaller staff, second-hand desks, half the phones unplugged. You're the night editor, and it's just past 9:00 p.m. when the receptionist buzzes in. There's something here for you. You go downstairs expecting a complaint, maybe a weird tip from a high schooler. What you get instead is a padded envelope, no return address, smudged handwriting. You open it. Another letter. This one's shorter, only 3 pages, but it hits harder. It begins. You made them famous, but forgot the first one. I didn't. It talks about Haley, about her laugh, about how she always double-knotted her apron, about how her shoes squeaked when she turned too fast in the diner kitchen. No news story ever mentioned that. Then the tone shifts. It says, I watched the news that day. You blamed the wrong ones. She would have laughed at that. She had a dumb, sweet laugh. You feel sick. It's intimate. The language isn't gory, it's worse. It's familiar. Like a journal from someone who spent time with her. Someone who didn't see her as a victim, but as a memory he owned. And at the bottom, the smiley face. Again, you hand it off to police. They don't say much. Just, we'll add it to the file. But that's the problem. The file is now a forest. A case so bloated with letters, graffiti, Tips, hoaxes, copycats, and contradictions that the truth can barely breathe. You become the public now, watching it all unfold through a screen, TV anchors pointing at maps, podcast hosts building narrative towers out of sand, Reddit threads naming suspects who've been dead since the 80s. And through it all, Linda McCready becomes a ghost people can't agree on. Some think she was framed, others think she helped. A few believe she made it all up and planted the wallet herself. But here's the part no one can shake. She knew too much. The precise location, the details about the blanket, the denim scrap, the wallet, all of it. And yet, she never confessed to the murder, never claimed to see Haley's face, never said she even touched her. So what does that make her? Accomplice, unwitting pawn. A woman groomed by a monster who knew how to look harmless. Or this is where it gets strange, was she told everything by someone who wasn't James at all? You become one of the detectives who believed that, someone who read every transcript, replayed every tape, and finally said aloud, what if Linda wasn't lying? What if she just wasn't listening to the right voice? It's not unheard of. There are documented cases where killers manipulated third parties into helping them without ever revealing their face. Messages passed by phone, items left to be found. Guilt passed like a virus. Historians still argue whether the rise of long-haul trucking culture in the 1980s and 90s made it easier for criminals to move freely, cross state lines, and drop bodies like letters across the postal grid. Some suggest the real killer may have never even lived in Spokane. Maybe he just passed through, and maybe, during one of those stops, he met Linda. You wonder now if the phone call she got that night, January 13th, 1990, wasn't from James at all. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe James showed up later. Maybe Linda panicked. Maybe she fused two memories together like candle wax. Or maybe, just maybe, the smiley face killer planted her into the case like one of his trophies. Not a person, not a witness, but a prop. A decoy, someone to throw the scent. Because after all, if you focus hard enough on the wrong person, you'll miss the one standing quietly in the corner. The one who doesn't scream, just smiles. You're walking through Haley's neighborhood. It's 1996. Now 6 years since she disappeared, 5 since she was found, and nearly 2 since the letters began. The houses look the same. Vinyl siding, brown lawns, bicycles tipped over on driveways. It feels preserved, like the kind of place a memory would choose to hide. You've come back because something's bothering you, not a new clue, an old one. You're retracing her path from Bellucci's to home those 8 quiet blocks. Is late evening, and you hear your own footsteps echo, just like hers must have, only this time, you're not thinking about suspects. You're thinking about Haley, because somewhere along the way, everyone stopped asking who she really was. The smiley face killer made her into a symbol. Linda made her into a body. James made her into a question. But she was a person, and you want to know who that person was. You talk to old neighbors. One remembers Haley always returning library books early. Another says she walked a stray dog home once and cried when she couldn't keep it. You visit Bellucci's, still there. Still smells like garlic and burned cheese. A new manager now, but one of the waitresses remembers her. She didn't talk a lot, she says, but she was always watching, always watching. You jot that down, and then you find something strange. You're in her old bedroom now. Her parents kept it as a shrine. The bed still made, photos on the dresser, a small jewelry box by the window. Inside it, 2 things, a folded paper star and a church bulletin from January 7th, 1990. Exactly 1 week before she vanished. There's a handwritten note in the margin. Pastor Mark says, God sees even what others don't. You wonder who she wrote that for, or about. You think of that phrase again, always watching, and it hits you. What if Haley saw something? Something she wasn't supposed to. You go back to her schedule. The diner, the walk, the 8 blocks. 1 block from her house was a small, now closed auto repair shop. Back in 1990, it was a 24-hour joint. One of those places with cigarette machines in the lobby and a Coke bottle opener bolted to the doorframe. The owner, a man named Cal Reynolds. You check the case file, his name never appears. But you find something in a footnote, an anonymous tip from an employee. There said someone matching Haley's description had walked by the night of the 13th, just after midnight. Said she stopped, looked in the shop window, then kept walking. No one followed up. It was written off as a confused witness, but now you wonder, what did she see through that glass? Maybe a conversation, maybe a fight, maybe a man whose face didn't belong there, and maybe that man saw her, see him. You keep digging. Turns out Cal Reynolds had a brother, cross-country trucker, left town in early 1991 after the shop shut down. The name, Martin Reynolds, never convicted of anything, never suspected. Lived in Idaho, died in 2003 heart failure, cremated, and there it is. A man with no digital footprint, no DNA stored, but just enough time, motive, and mobility. You wonder if he could have been the original, the first smiley face, the one who started the ritual before anyone knew it existed. You imagine Haley walking past the garage, pausing, watching, and for the first time, the story doesn't begin with the killer choosing her. It begins with her noticing him. And that makes the next part even worse, because you realize maybe the killer didn't choose women who were weak. Maybe he chose women who noticed too much. Historians still argue whether serial killers seek invisibility or recognition. Some say they want to be seen but not understood. Others argue they want to be understood, just not stopped. But what if this one didn't want anything at all? What if he simply didn't want to be noticed? And Haley, she noticed. You're back at a rest stop now, but this one's different. It's the one off Highway 395, just past the Columbia River. The one with the broken vending machine and the hand dryer that sounds like it's choking. It's late, well past midnight. You're here because someone called in another message, scrawled across the inside wall of stall 3. In sharp, aggressive strokes, "I let her see me." She thought it meant something. It's new, still fresh, marker barely dried. You run a gloved finger across it and it smudges. Not old, not a hoax. Someone stood here recently watching their own words settle like dust. But there's something different about this one. It doesn't sound proud or mocking. It sounds angry. You step outside and realize something else. This rest stop, it's just 20 miles from Haley's old street. This message is personal, and that's when you feel it, that old, heavy thing again. The quiet, but not peaceful, not empty. The kind of quiet that listens. You think back to that paper star in Haley's jewelry box. You had someone examine its standard notebook paper, folded carefully, but inside, written so small it took a magnifier to catch. Don't trust the man with the paint on his hands. You assumed it was nothing. A line from a sermon, a half-formed diary thought, but now you look closer. You go back to the auto shop. Cal Reynolds didn't just own it. He ran the painting bay. And guess who helped him part-time on weekends? His brother, Martin. You dig deeper. Martin Reynolds worked under different names in different towns. Never for long. Always in jobs that kept him moving delivery routes. Repairs, groundskeeping. Never stayed anywhere more than 6 months. Until 1989, when he spent nearly a year living in Pasco. Remember that. The same city where Linda McCready said James called her from. But what if James didn't make that call? What if Martin did? What if Linda never saw James near that body? What if she saw someone else wearing his jacket, using his truck, saying his name? Historians still argue whether witness memory can be corrupted by guilt, fatigue, or leading questions. But one thing's clear. If you say a name enough times, the brain starts filling in the rest. You review Linda's original confession again. She never says James's name during the truck stop story, only when detectives suggest it. All she says is, "He told me to help. He was shaking. I didn't want to see her face." So what if Martin lured her there? What if he wanted to watch someone else carry the guilt? What if that's the real pattern? Not just murder, but choreographed blame. You're driving back now, headlights cutting through the dark, and as you near the city limits, your phone buzzes. Another tip. Someone found a fresh message scratched into the mirror of a dive bar bathroom in Walla Walla, the same bar where Linda overheard the original confession years ago. Only this time, the message isn't vague. It reads, "You put the wrong ones in cages. You gave me time." She remembered. Now I remember her too. And there it is. Not just a message, a warning. Because this time, the smiley face is different. Instead of 2 dots and a curve, it's 1 dot, 1 line, a face winking. You pull over, stare into the dark. You're not sure why, but it feels like the story's changed. As if whoever's writing now is getting closer. Not just geographically, emotionally. You remember the last line of that letter from 1994. "Don't try to find me. I'm not lost. You are." But now it feels like he's not hiding anymore. He's circling, watching the ones who watched Haley. And tonight, he wrote for you. You're standing at the edge of the Snake River Canyon again, but it's not 1990 anymore. It's now. The wind feels different, heavier, more deliberate. The rocks haven't moved. The water still flows low and quiet, but everything else changed. You aren't here as a cop or a journalist or even a parent. You're here because you need to know if he's still out here. And the silence seems to suggest he is. You crouch beside the same boulders where Haley was found. People still leave things: flowers, notes, paper stars. Someone even carved a tiny smiley face into the stone 2 years ago. You can still see it, just faintly. Time has worn it down, but not enough to erase it. Funny how that works. You take a deep breath, let the air fill your lungs. Then you reach into your coat and pull out a folder. Inside, every letter, every tip, every strange coincidence. You flip through it, eyes scanning dates, handwriting styles, places. You circle back to Martin Reynolds, the maybe, the might have, the man who never had to answer for anything. He's gone now. Cremated. No DNA, no fingerprints, but his story, still casting shadows. And then, just before you close the folder, something falls out. A photograph. You don't remember putting it there, but it's old. A Polaroid. Haley in her apron, standing in Bellucci's kitchen, smiling. Not posed, just caught mid-laugh. On the back, in blue ink. She always noticed everything. Your hands go cold? You check the folder again. Nothing else. No envelope. No note, just that picture. And that handwriting, you don't know who wrote it, but you know why they left it. Because the story isn't over. The man or the myth that became the smiley face killer is still writing it. Maybe it's one person, maybe two, maybe the symbol lives on, passed from one set of hands to another like a curse. But one thing is clear, he doesn't want to be found. He wants to be followed. Each clue, each message, each sick little smile isn't a breadcrumb to justice. It's a breadcrumb to obsession. And you followed it here. Like Linda did. Like Haley did. Like we all did. You sit on the cold stone for a long time. No one else is here. Not now, but someone was. Recently, you see fresh boot prints leading away. The kind that don't belong to a hiker. Deep. Heavy. A pattern not sold in any local store. And beside them, a candy wrapper, red, torn. You recognize it from the detail in the fifth letter, the one he said he gave to the one who smiled back. You pick it up, and that's when you know he was just here, watching. You. Watch the canyon, watching the story come full circle, and leaving just enough to make sure you can't let it go. Because this was never about solving the case. It was about carrying it. The way Linda did, the way you do now. And that's the final cruelty. You were supposed to find the truth. Instead, you inherited it. So now, as the night grows deeper, you sit with this story in your lap. It doesn't resolve, it doesn't fade. It lingers, like fog that never lifts, only shifts shape. Haley's story. What began as a girl walking home has become something far bigger, far heavier. Not just a crime, not even a pattern, but a legacy of fear, silence, and misdirection. And still, there are names we'll never know, voices that were never recorded, moments that only exist in the quiet minds of those who survived. But tonight, we remember them. You let the weight of that final scene sink into your chest. The boulders, the still water, the photo in your hand. And in your own breath you find stillness. Because sometimes, that's the only peace we get. Not closure, just stillness. So wherever you are, whatever time it is, give yourself permission to release this story now. You don't need to carry it anymore. Let the river run without you. Let the mystery stay unanswered. Let Haley's name be the last thing that echoes, not the killer's mark, not the smile, just her. Now close your eyes. Slow your breathing. The world outside will keep spinning. And for tonight, you are safe.